Salute. It's your boy Gamer KSK back here with another one here to talk about Kemba Walker at this valiant effort against the Celtics, as well as another possible point guard that Knicks are probably trying to look to trade for. But let's start off with Kemba Walker. Put up 29 points against the Celtics. A valiant effort. A losing effort, but a valiant effort nonetheless after getting 10 DNPs by Thibodeau. Kemba Walker did also put up no points in the fourth quarter, kind of when we need them the most. Granted that the Celtics started to come alive in the fourth quarter after being fairly stupid and jacking up a whole bunch of shots to the first three quarters. But Kemba Walker nonetheless, with so many guys missing, put about 29 points on 8 for 20 shooting, 5 for 11 from 3 assists, 6 rebounds, 1 turnover, and he did foul out at the end. Granted, allegedly he was mad that Thibodeau commanded him to make the foul at the end. I forgot who was it to stop, but Kemba Walker overall did have 29 points, a decent effort, and it seems as if things are not so good in the Garden. Now, granted, you would expect it not to be so well in the Garden after the fact that Kemba Walker came here with expectation to at least get some playing time after his buyout with OKC Thunder, coming from the Celtics. But Kemba Walker seems to have not even been talking to Thibodeau since the benching. 10 DNPs. This guy's been fairly mum with Thibodeau. And Thibodeau on the flip side is saying he's doing what he knows best for the team. Seems that these two guys are going to be at a crossroads for the remainder of the season, as long as Kemba Walker is here, if he's traded before the deadline. But let's listen to these two clips to get some more color from these nincompoops.
I hate it. I want to play, but no, it is what it is. Some guys went down. I got to fill in do what I can until they get back. So, yeah.
Well, that's what he's supposed to do, right? But, he's a pro, great character, played well.
Performance like that give you reconsideration to what things look like when you have everybody back?
We'll see. You got to look at everything in totality.
So just to get back to Kemba Walker, yes, he scored the 29 points, went, I believe, 8 for 20 from the field, shot well from 3. But again, in the fourth quarter, 0 for 3 from the field. Only scored about 2 points within the perimeter, 3 points within the perimeter, 2 of them near the paint. He really can't explode like that off his knee. He's more of a streaky guy. Needs to use the screens to get his shots off. Again, defensively, it's just not there. He didn't really provide any resistance. And if the Celtics were smart, they would have just kept attacking. Could have just kept driving to the basket because we provide no resistance. They took as many shots from the outside as possible and kept us in the game. But to get back on Kemba Walker, it seems as if there's a disconnect between what he believes his ability is, Thibodeau's perception, and what the front office sees. So with Kemba Walker, according to Bill Simmons and Jack Huntley of the Strickland, back in 2019-20 with the Celtics, when Danny Ainge he took a 180 turn from what he did with Isaiah Thomas at hip injury and trying to stall a rehab assignment or a rehab plan for Kemba Walker, getting healthy for the playoffs. Kemba Walker rejected it. And that kind of created some discontent and frost between he and the front office. But it seems like Kemba Walker is very gung-ho in trying to, I won't say hide, but kind of mask the severity of that injury. Like he doesn't see his NBA mortality or as a starter in the, right there in the rear view mirror. At this point, he is probably better as a backup. But even when you talk about arthritic knee, everybody was kind of mum on what the issues were when he was with the Celtics. He kind of try to keep his under wrap as much as possible. Obviously, everybody sees it as an arthritic issue, which is degenerative. With Thibodeau, I think the belief was that he needed guards who kind of fit his mold. Obviously, Derrick Rose was probably going to get started minutes if Kemba Walker wasn't available. But also trying to develop guys like IQ, who you saw over in the summer league, Yashimoto and Thibodeau kind of molded him as more of a playmaker, averaged about like 8 or 9 or 8 assists a game in the summer league. But you saw him make a concerted effort to be more of a playmaker. And I think that was a plan of Thibodeau, to have this guy kind of come in as that combo guard once Derrick Rose kind of moves over, or maybe even start him this season. But obviously those plans kind of went away once Kemba Walker came in. Kemba Walker just doesn't fit what Thibodeau wants to do. He's undersized, can't play defense. The knee can't really explode off of it. So his ability to take guys one-on-one is just not as good as it was in previous years when he was with the Charlotte Hornets. In the front office, I think they're still trying to sell the fan base on knowing what the hell they're doing. You bring over Kemba Walker, you put him as the face of your new city edition jerseys, despite the fact that you have Julius Randle as the guy who just made the All-NBA second team and is a first-time All-Star, a guy who he did lift this team up last season to get to the playoffs, and he's not even the face of it. You also have Kemba Walker on this 2-year deal, no team out. I'm not sure anybody else is offering that. OKC was not going to give him any money, give him any minutes. And granted, I think the front office sold him on the starting position, getting these minutes, and that's why I agreed to the buyout. Because if this was the case, he probably would just eating up the money and just stay with OKC. So there's a disconnect between all three parties and how the Knicks are going to resolve it. Because according to this comment on BR, where it talks about Obi, RJ, Mitch, kind of taking the side of Kemba, things can rear its ugly head. Now, you saw in the game where Kemba was saying BAN, look up Urban Dictionary for the acronym, wasn't giving Tom Thibodeau any fives or anything. And granted, I can understand you not giving fives, you kind of feel insulted, but you have to see the reality of things. Now, I wonder what was iterated to him before he signed a contract. Now, if this article is this comment, and it's a comment, so you got to take a big old grain of salt to it. If this comment is true, that's a bad sign on the Knicks. But it's just weird because I would think Obi would be mad because Tom Thibodeau took him out of games himself. Now, granted, I think in certain games he probably should have been taken out so early. I think that's all ball movement in certain games, run the baseline cuts, kind of threw the defenses off whack, even when they brought in the starters in late in the game. Bringing in Julius Randle at that, some of these games just wasn't smart. But again, the guy doesn't really have much of a half-court game. You're not giving him the ball to go one-on-one in late fourth quarter. So, flip side, yes, Tom Thibodeau has some mistakes, but Obi Toppin, you're shooting in the teens in terms of your three-point shot. Your mid-range shot is non-existent. So some things you have to work on as well, too. You get to a guy like Mitch Robinson, who to me I think is immature. He's going to be gone. It is what it is. No offense to Mitch Robinson. He was a second rounder. I think he's overachieved on this team, which is a good thing. But in terms of him developing these other parts of his game, like a set shot he should have been working on when he was hurt, still don't see it. This guy complains about touches. And what is he shooting from the foul line? Last season, I believe he was shooting 48% from the foul line. There's a guy, to me, I'm not saying he doesn't take his game seriously. I just think he's really immature in how he attacks it. So I think he knows he's going to be a free agent, putting your plus minuses on the social media to talk about we should give you the ball when you get the ball down low the few times and you look doofy trying to get to the rim if you're at least 5-6 feet away from the rim. We're good with Mitch Robinson. Good luck. Miles Turner, please come to the Knicks. And then RJ Barrett, yes. I do think there might be something with RJ Barrett because I believe Tom Thibodeau, when he talked about RJ Barrett being sick, and he talked about the initial one where he said that RJ Barrett doesn't come to the gym as much anymore. And according to the comment, it seems as if, just based on the comment on Bleacher Report, it said that certain guys on the team are no longer, they're not as tight as they were last season, where guys are coming in to work out together after games and whatnot. And they said Kemba Walker works out by himself. RJ Barrett hasn't been as present, Obi Toppin as well. But I just think with the RJ Barrett thing, it may have been a little bit overblown because the guy came back and responded, which is a great thing by a young player. When your coach calls you out, whether directly or indirectly, and you come back and respond the next game, that's a good sign of things. So I always look at the glass half empty, but I'm hoping that it was the other way around where he was actually sick for 2 weeks. And he's actually come back. So hopefully the BR article is wrong. But again, the whole thing with you calling your coach a BAN and that stuff, it cannot be tolerated. The front office has to do something. Whether they just sign a whole bunch of guys to these hardship exemptions and keep Kemba Walker on the bench as a lesson, maybe that works. Maybe the best bet is just to cut the kid. Allow Miles McBride to take over his minutes. My son Miles McBride did show out in the Rockets game. It's a Rockets game, but that's my son Miles McBride. Eat your food, boy. The IQ take those minutes as well too. Derrick Rose take those minutes. You can't allow guys to come in and ruin the ship that you're trying to run. You saw what happened with the Bulls, where it was Butler versus Rose. You saw what happened with Minnesota, where Cat, it seems, was the main culprit in terms of kind of getting guys not to follow, or it may have been he was the main guy not to follow Tom Thibodeau's direction, especially when they brought Jimmy Butler, and you saw how that imploded. But if Kemba Walker's doing this, if he's leading, if he's influencing guys, you have to take him off the team. I would hope they could try to fashion him as much as possible for a trade. But again, who's trading for Kemba Walker? You already saw the rumors out there that no one wants to trade for the guy because of the knee. So it's unfortunate if you try to fashion him up, just get him, to build him up so you get to a contender. If you could try to do that, maybe I don't know if you could do another buyout. That would suck because he's lost money with OKC or from the OKC buyout. But this just can't be tolerated. And I think that the front office has to find a way to kind of build a team around some of what Thibs wants in terms of perception. I think they brought in some guys who may not fit Tom Thibodeau to a T. Obviously, They brought back Burks and both, even though I think Burks fits Tom Thibodeau, but Kemba Walker, ever 20, kind of find it hard to see if those guys are Tom Thibodeau guys. But let me say one thing before we end on this. I will give this to Kemba Walker. The Randle-centric offense needs to end. I understand that this guy's been a black hole in offense many games this season. The fans, players seem to be frustrated by it. You heard RJ Barrett talking about how the bench just looks so much better than the starters, and that may have been an indirect shot at Randle and Tom Thibodeau's insistence because he loves his generals. Tom Thibodeau has to open up the offense. He has to move the ball away from Julius Randle and make it more a free-flowing offense. You saw what they were doing at the beginning of the season, the preseason, running all those beautiful sets, the horn spin, pick and roll, the motion sets to get the shooter from the corner open. It was beautiful. And then that all just went away. The Tom Thibodeau the Julius Randle central offense just kind of took over. And Julius Randle ain't that. He's not this elite playmaker. He's not this elite ISO scorer that can put the ball in his hands. So Tom Thibodeau has to build away from that. But there needs to be a resolution, and there needs to be a resolution soon. If those comments from the BR comment are correct, right now, gotta fix that up. But one point guard I would love for the Knicks to go after in this trade season. That's my son, Chris Brown's cousin or lookalike from Washington, Dejounte Murray of the Spurs. So Dejounte Murray, fifth-year guard from San Antonio Spurs, is currently putting up 17 points a game, about 8.2, 8.1 rebounds a game, 8.5 assists a game, and he's becoming one of the better playmakers in the league. After DeMar DeRozan left, he's getting more of an opportunity to showcase his ability, even though his usage rate is only around 25%. And when you look at some of the guards available in the league, I know everybody wants well, not everybody, but a lot of people want De'Aaron Fox. And given all the assets and what we have to give up for him, I was just thinking you could possibly go for a cheaper option who might be right on the cusp of getting into that quasi-elite level. So when you look at Dejounte Murray, the thing that truly pops out to me is his playmaking ability. Currently, Murray is generating 8.5 assists a game, which is tied for fourth in the league with Luka Doncic when looking at all guards. Tied for fifth in assisted points created, and is second in assisted turnover ratio at 3.49 for all guards with at least 8 assists a game. This goes with his quasi-elite assist ratio for the season at 35%. And you see Dejounte Murray's growing IQ as a facilitator, given Popovich's schemes where he implements a lot more motion or off-ball concepts to get guys open. Dejounte Murray always allows the play to develop in front of him and always attempts to make the proper pass. Another positive of Murray's is his ability to use his slashing to draw in the defenses and be able to kick out to the guys on the outside. And this shows up in his passing numbers when in isolation against defenders. Now, to get to his individual scoring ability, it seems that Murray might be coming into his own as an elite finisher at the rim, where he's averaging about 67% right at the rim, which is higher than 61% the season before. Murray was known to be a little bit erratic when attacking the basket in his first few seasons in the NBA, but with more touches and a little bit more leeway to control the offense with the ball in his hands, Murray is slowly becoming more comfortable finishing the rim, while his floater is slowly becoming a major weapon. And his shooting off the dribble has gradually shown improvement, preferring the right to the left dribble and gather and shooting a decent 43.1% from the field. Again, Popovich's focus on the mid-range is showing with Murray, as he's shooting 49.6% on all shots within 17 feet from the rim. So we got to talk about Dejounte Murray's pick and roll ability, which I think is hindered by two things. Now, in Tom Thibodeau's offenses, you need guards who can attack off of screens. We have a very heavy on-ball type of offense or offensive philosophy, and the only real guard who can slash and attack the rim adequately, consistently, off of screens to me with explosiveness and bursts is Derrick Rose. And granted, Derrick Rose is like 33 years old. IQ does a decent job of it as well, but you need legit athleticism, speed at that position. I think Dejounte Murray would fit perfectly. Now, when you look at his numbers, let's get to the passing. I think that his passing suffers because the Spurs have one of the worst pick and roll offenses for big men in the league, for their roll men. The only roll option is York Knicks. Other than that, they have Drew Eubanks, they don't really have many options in the front court. They do have Thaddeus Young, who is decent, but they are not playing him. So I think that when you watch his game, I think the numbers are a little bit misleading. I think he's held back by the fact they don't have many options. As you see in this clip here, that he does a good job of being able to come up the screen, penetrate further into the paint, and draw the defenses in order to make those slick passes to a guy like a Thaddeus Young to finish at the basket. I could definitely see him doing the same thing on the Knicks. Hopefully he'd be able to do it with a guy like Julius Randle if he freaking rolled to the damn basket. But let's get to his pick and roll scoring. which I think suffers a little bit because he can't shoot from the outside. Now, he actually is shooting 47.2% off of all dribble jumpers off of screens, which is solid. And he shoots around 53.4% on all shots within the all shots right around or inside the foul line, which is actually solid. And you know Popovich likes to emphasize mid-range shooting. Everybody now wants to praise DeMar DeRozan as his mid-range demon. He helped to hone those skills. Even though he was a good mid-range shooter with the Raptors, definitely took it a step further with the Spurs. And that's one of Dejounte Murray's strengths. But I think that he's held back by the fact that he doesn't really scare you from the outside with shots on the dribble from the perimeter. So you can play back off of, or you can play underneath the screen and kind of wait or play to angle him away from his preferred spots, which are in the paint, in the foul line, to take that little mid-range shot. Let's get to his shooting now. Now, he is shooting 33% from three. He is getting, I think this is career high in 4 attempts a game. 33% obviously is below average. He is getting more looks because DeMar DeRozan is no longer there, but he has to work on that outside shooting. Now, he is shooting decently from the corners. Left side three, he's shooting above average. Right side three is shooting right below average. I think overall for corner three, he's shooting around 38%. I think his frequency is around the teens, but in a Tom Thibodeau offense, he will definitely be put in those corners to get up his confidence, get up his proficiency in overall three-point shooting, just like they did with RJ Barrett, who became a so-called corner maestro last season for the Knicks after not being known for his shooting in his first year and his time with Duke. Now, let's get to the defensive part, because I still think that Dejounte Murray has the talent to be one of the better two-way guards in the league. And the first thing that pops out to you with Dejounte Murray's defensive ability is his thievery. This guy is one of the elite stealers, thieves in the league. His second season NBA, he was voted to the All-NBA second all-defensive team. He did get the ACL injury in his third season, which I think kind of sapped a little bit of his lateral quickness. But again, in the league, he's one of the best thieves in the league. He's averaging about 2 steals a game, has a steal rate of about 2.4%, which is elite, which is good for the 92nd percentile, and currently generates the most deflections per game at 3.9. This guy's a 6'4" guard with a 6'10" wingspan. That is just, that's absolutely stupid. It allows him to pick pockets. You see him many times able to disrupt passing lanes. On dribble handoffs, he does a really good job of deflecting and stealing lazy passes. In the pick and roll, you see him disrupt the little handoffs if it's a dribble handoff off the screen. That also leads to his transition ability. He is averaging right now 63.5% from the field in all transition points, which is around in the 80th percentile. And this is a guy who hasn't had an ACL injury. And you take into account his rebounding, he's averaging about 7.3 defensive rebounds a game, which I know people look at, including me. I look at defensive rebound. He is fifth in the league for all guards at contested rebounds at 1.1 a game. So this is not a guy who's a lackadaisical defender. He tries hard, but I just think the knee injury held him back, or is holding back a little bit, took a little bit away from his game, because he's not a good spot-up defender. And when you look at his defensive field goal percentage, is not the strongest. I think he sometimes gets bullied by bigger guards, bigger wings, who can tag to the basket, or attack and penetrate to the basket, post him up. And you see him kind of struggling in that regard. But in a Tom Thibodeau defense, to help a helper, if you do have another guard, or if you have aggressive centers, front court guys who can help out and hedge aggressively, not play so much drop back coverage, I can definitely see him flourishing in a Tom Thibodeau-led defense. Definitely have other guards or wings who can help out and hedge themselves off of the wings to help out a guy like Dejounte Murray, who will work hard off of screens and still has decent lateral quickness. I definitely see him flourishing in a defense such as the one ran by Tom Thibodeau. To me, when I look at him, I look at his trajectory similar to Jimmy Butler's. Not to say he plays the same way, but if you look at their numbers, they have some similarities. They're not the greatest of outside shooters. They came in with defensive prowess. And when you look at their games, you talk about budding playmakers. And he also loves the mid-range, just like Jimmy Butler. Now, this past summer, Greg Popovich allegedly wanted to put up Derek White and Dejounte Murray for sale to move up in the draft and get the preferred player. They also want to put more shooting on this team regarding their guards. They did sign Doug McDermott. They drafted Josh Primo from Alabama, as well as Devin Vassell the year before. The guy wanted the freaking Knicks to draft. So it remains to be seen if they have that same sentiment for this draft coming up, because it is a relatively weaker draft just from the surface level. Obviously, there'll probably be some sleepers here or there. But the only 3 guys that, if I'm the Knicks, I'm keeping that draft pick for. If I feel comfortable that we could get them. Now, the lottery machine has not been good to us But if there's some guys I'm waiting back for. Obviously, Jaden Ivey, my son from Purdue, Paolo Banchero from Duke, and then Jabari Smith from Auburn. Everybody else besides that, hey, if I don't feel like we're going to get those guys, I think that draft pick by the Knicks should be up for grabs. We're not going to get the point guard in the future, I believe, in this draft. I don't think it's going to be Ty Washington. I think it's that guy, Kennedy Chandler. I don't think it's that guy. You got some others out there I'm just not really convinced by would be the so-called guard of future for the Knicks. J.D. Davison from Alabama. Solid players, but I don't think they're better than Dejounte Murray is right now, or maybe even will be. So if I'm the Knicks, I'm looking to try to weaponize that pick and get Dejounte Murray. Try to sell Popovich on the dream. Look, if they're closer to those guys and we are, say we're middling and we're going to be outside the lot, like way outside the lottery period, I'm looking to try to sell those assets and send me Greg Popovich. Send me a Dejounte Murray. Hey, we'll give you Evan Fournier. You like French players, you like shooters, right? We'll give you Evan Fournier. Now, that's going to be tough because Evan Fournier is making around 17 and a half and 18.6 the next season, so it may be hard to sell him on that. But if they want to move up in this draft and get their next Tim Duncan, which Popovich has talked about, and all his draft strategies, draft the next Tim Duncan. I know it's him trying to be a jerk, but he probably would love another Tim Duncan now. Maybe they're close enough to draft the Jabari Smith. Maybe they need some more draft. They need some draft capital to move up and get that guy. They truly believe it's that guy. So I think that the Knicks have to try to play around with some of these teams. I'm not saying Popovich is dumb, but try to weaponize these picks. Try to weaponize some players. Now, if you do it before the trading deadline, you could try to move a guy like Kevin Knox, but would he take on a guy like Kevin Knox? Would that convince him? Giving them at first Kevin Knox and some other assets, would that convince him enough? I don't know. Because they do want shooters. Kevin Knox would probably fit good in that system, but then again, Kevin Knox and IQ with Greg Popovich may not fit. So I don't know. I'm trying, man. I know the Sabonis video. People are like, you had a 20-minute video and we're not going to get Sabonis. Now I'm doing a video and we're talking about not getting Dejounte Murray. I do think Dejounte Murray might be a little bit more available than a Sabonis, but it remains to be seen. Because Dejounte Murray, as good as he is, he did have these flashes last season. He kind of, I won't say dies out, but he has these hot flashes and it doesn't sustain. So, and not in a bad way. I still think he's developing, but if we could sell Greg Popovich on maybe the first this season, and some other players have obviously filling the contract for Dejounte Murray, if there's some way you get a 3-team trade, I was trying to think of one. Get a 3-team trade where you get Dejounte Murray and they trade off Thaddeus Young to another team, but then Thaddeus Young is an expiring contract anyway this season, so it would even make sense to really do that. I think you have to try to sell him on first, because who would take Thaddeus Young this season as like a championship piece? And that's no offense to Thaddeus Young. I have to think that a little bit through, but if you can't sell him on this first round pick by the Knicks 2022 to move up and get his next Tim Duncan, might be a little tough. But guys, let me know what you think. Is Dejounte Murray that dude? Would you prefer him to Kemba Walker, Miles McBride, who's my son? Prefer him to Derrick Rose on his team. How do you feel about Dejounte Murray? Also talk to me, how do you feel about this Kemba Walker fiasco with him and Tom Thibodeau? Leave your comments below. After the video ends, this is your boy Game of Kia, Scale Legion and Knicks. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe to the channel, hit the dark notification bell, get each and every notification to each and every video. I appreciate you guys being here, and don't forget to be with me for the watch-alongs. I'll see you guys next time. Peace, Lou. God bless. Happy holidays. Take care and be safe.